Welcome back to the Horror Academic, and as I promised, here's some more Italian horror reviews, some more giallos to review. So, um, have to admit that I had never seen Don't Torture a Duckling. Uh, it's a Fulci film. It's been sitting on my shelf probably since the the DVD was released, which says here 2015. Would not surprise me if it's been sitting on my shelf that long because I went, oh, I don't have that, I need that, and then totally forgot to ever watch it. It's a problem I have. Yeah, we've discussed. Anyway, so here's the thing. First off, yeah, this is totally a traditional giallo. Totally loved it. Here's the thing though. I don't know what the hell this title means. Don't torture a duckling. So there's like this thing in Italian horror where, especially in the 70s and early 80s, they were all into these weird ass names for movies. Like, here's some examples: Fulci's Lizard in a Woman's Skin. What does that mean? How about some of Argento's films, like Bird with the Crystal Plumage, or let's see, there's just all the like the animal named ones that I don't get. Like, I mean, it's a thing to have to just come up with these long, weird titles. And there's more, but it's early in the morning and I can't remember them. So, yeah, this is a thing I don't get. Gotta say, the title probably also was a little weirding me out, so I think I put it off on purpose for a little bit. Like, this one's gonna be really weird with that kind of title. And I had remembered in some passing that there's a Fulci film where there's a killer who quacks like a duck or makes duck-like noises. I don't remember this happening in here. Maybe I'm confusing this with Manhattan Baby, which I'm sure I watched a really long time ago and cannot remember. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to get to that one eventually too to rewatch because I don't remember what happened or not. But anyway, so let's get to this one. 1972, Lucio Fulci and his prime. One thing I will say that was totally different than what I was expecting from any giallo. This does not take place in an Italian city. This isn't Rome. This isn't Milan. This is a little village in the middle of nowhere. So it looks, the setting, it's like, I mean, at first kind of almost get like the spaghetti western feel because everything's so dirty and, well, like dusty, that kind of dusty feel. Yeah, right. It's from like little villages in the middle of nowhere. But I also started to get kind of this moment of like, the Godfather where they go to Sicily. I think it's Godfather 2 where they go back to Sicily. Had that feel where it's very old worldy, where I'm used to giallos being cityscapes and being very much like the American equivalent would be like Bill Lustig's Maniac, those kind of harsh streets, kind of stories, the whole gloved killers. So there is a bit of a gloved killer kind of thing going on here, and it's this is a thriller mystery with tons of MacGuffins that are so really well executed that you think you're sure who committed these crimes, and then they prove you wrong, and then you're like, okay, well then it had to be this one, and they prove you wrong again. And I love that about these stories because it keeps you like on the ledge, like, what, wait, I'm wrong, what the hell's going on, so very cool with that. I will say, it is very different because it's not, and this is like something I think more people should talk about, because one of the things giallos and thrillers in general get kind of typecast for is killing women, like brutally massacring women like American slasher films. And that's not the story here. These are kids getting killed. Like 12-year-old boys are getting killed. And the only thing you can tell they all have in common is that they're being 12 years old because they're like sneaking the look at like guys calling a prostitute or, getting a glimpse at a naked lady. Like they're being 12-year-old boys. And then they start showing up murdered. And all you know as a viewer is that there's someone making, see, I don't know the word in Italian. I gotta look this up. They're like making voodoo dolls and hitting them with pins, and those kids, after something happens, you see a voodoo doll and then something happens to them. So you know that it's like there's some kind of, I think the term is maloiki going on, like, oh, that's been old school Italian stuff that I'm not as up on as I should be. But it's, I really liked it. It was very different than everything I expected. there's these characters, a man and a woman who are kind of like witches. And at first, the kind of so it's like the small village, and there's like the police force, and then there's like the what do they call the guy? He's like the investigator, who's like, I guess, from like the higher ups, who's sent in because of these kids going missing and then eventually found murdered. Um, and he's kind of questioning these small town cops a lot. Like, so there's a witch. Um, so that's a like she's superstitious. That's just some woman who's crazy, right? And it's like, well, a witch in these parts, she's not like that off because she works with the clergy, and she, or the medicine in the town. People go to her for help, like, so it's still this kind of thing where that's not too shunned in society, especially in small town Italy. And there's like a wizard, a guy who knows her, works with her sometimes, but their relationship is a little sketchy. He knows she hasn't seen her for a while, but yeah, he trained her on some stuff. But so that was interesting that it wasn't like this instant, like, burn the witch. No, oh, there's a witch? Let's bring her in for questioning and find out what the hell, like. So that was interesting how you have this small town opinion of witchcraft versus like the city guy's opinion of it. And there's a lot, seeing it through this kind of city investigator's point of view of how superstitious and religious the people of this community are. And he doesn't understand that the small town cop, when there's a debate between them of, well, did she confess? Well, but did she do it? Well, then if we can't hold her in jail, then let her go home. And the small town cop's like, well, I'm trying to avoid, anything. And he's like, avoid what? If we can't pin her to it, then you have to let her go. And it's kind of like, you realize he's trying to tell the guy, yeah, but the townsfolk aren't going to take this lightly, like, so he's trying to kind of like put it out there. So there's these difference between city and villagers that is interesting to watch in this. Maybe because they're kids, I kind of in my head was also sort of kind of equating it to the documentaries, Paradise Lost documentaries about the teenagers who are convicted of a crime they didn't do. Sorry, I should have silenced my phone. Anyway, so there's kind of that kind of element too. I just was very surprised that they were killing children, 12-year-old kids. And there's a great twist at the end. Oh my God, it's probably the best twist I've seen for a while in watching Italian films. This is one I did not see coming until the very end. There's like a reporter who's kind of he shifts to maybe he's the guy who really is going to be able to figure this out because the cops are being too analytical and too, he's trying to really figure it out. There's a girl who I'm going to guess is in her mid to late 20s, who the rumors in town is her family is from this village, but her father went off to Milan and, had a very successful business and they became very wealthy. But she ended up getting involved in some kind of drug scandal. So father shunned her back to the village to get her out of the way of any of the scandalous stuff. And she's just like bored out of her mind. So that's an interesting thing where she's just like a city girl. Even though she's from this village, she's a city girl now, and she can't equate to these people at all. So all of these people, and it's a lot of this kind of, let's take the people that are different in this town and assume, right, that they're the ones. And it goes through those stages, and it's a very good ride. I mean, there's not a ton of violence. Oh, I did want to mention there's one scene where villagers corner a woman and who's suspected and brutally attack her. And it's done while they leave the radio on in one of their cars. It's like on a hillside. And so you hear this like pop music pretty much playing while they're, and the brutal attack reminds me very much of the opening sequence of The Beyond, where there's a chain used and you see it literally rip the person's face and, it's instantly blood comes. I mean, the effects are done well. But that just made me think, I wonder if Quentin Tarantino saw this and was like, hey, pop music playing during a torture scene. Interesting. Anyway, so that was a cool note. Anything else that I want to tell you? there's so many cool things in this film. I was very glad I watched it. Um, Other things that I would say, it's a story about children being punished for having those moments of childhood where they're curious, right? So that's a very different topic than you see in most films. Um, and I was very surprised how different this was from every other giallo. I've seen many images of Italy that you would expect. Like there's old women in black shrouds sitting on the corners, knitting or whatever, and they see someone walk by that they don't like and they spit. Like that's old school. Um, yeah, I think this is a great Fulci story. I'm just looking through to see if there's anything else. Yeah, there's like the weirdo in town who's that there's something wrong with this guy, and he, you know, he's a peeping tom, and it's like they go through all these people who are suspects. Um, and there's an interesting sequence where a very young priest is talking to the reporter, and he's taken all these kids in to kind of giving them a safe place to play, and the kids just want to play soccer. And then the reporter's like, well, that's great that you've got all these kids, that you're taking care of them. He's like, and they believe in God, and he's like, yeah, they love God, but they love soccer more, and that's pretty Italian too. So all this to say, really dug this film. Don't Torture a Duckling. Great story, lots of twists and turns. This is everything Fulci's good at. Check it out if you haven't. And I hope you like it, because this is pretty cool stuff. See you guys later.